Good Wednesday morning. Thanks for joining us here on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Alicia Lewis. If you're headed out at all today, make sure you bundle up. We have bitter cold temperatures moving in with some snow, triggering a weather impact alert day. And by the end of it all, temperatures are going to be well below zero tomorrow morning, so it's definitely going to be cold. We'll, of course, check in with our weather team for a full look at the forecast. That's coming up in just a little bit. Meanwhile, the Twin Cities on edge this morning as ICE agents are headed to Minnesota. Their target, the Somali community. Senior law enforcement officials are telling NBC News that ICE is planning an operation in the Twin Cities, and it could happen at any moment. Our Audrey Russo is at the live desk with new developments, including a tirade from President Donald Trump.
Yeah, the president has accused Somalis of ripping off Minnesotans, referencing large fraud cases involving defendants of East African descent. But yesterday, he shifted to a more direct criticism of Somalia and its people.
And we're going to go the wrong way if we keep taking in garbage into our country. These aren't people that work. These aren't people that say, let's go, come on, let's make this place great.
A senior law enforcement tells NBC News that ICE raids are imminent in Minneapolis and St. Paul. Homeland Security wouldn't confirm any specific action, but the agency said it's immigration status rather than ethnicity that makes someone a target of ICE. Now, the mayor of Minnesota's largest Somali community fears the opposite could become the case.
Targeting Somali people means that due process will be violated, mistakes will be made. And let's be clear, it means that American citizens will be detained for no other reason than the fact that they look like they are Somali.
Of the roughly 80,000 Somalis in Minnesota, about half are foreign-born. Census data suggests the majority of those foreign-born Somalis are naturalized citizens. Back to you.
Audrey, thank you. Well, there's another major decision from Washington this morning that could impact nearly 500,000 Minnesotans. The Trump administration says it plans to withhold SNAP funding from several Democratic-led states, including Minnesota, if they refuse to turn over personal data on SNAP recipients, things like names, home addresses, and immigration status. The federal government says it's collecting the data to root out any fraud. About 440,000 Minnesotans receive SNAP benefits.
These people are on public assistance, and the people funding the taxpayers, and as well as the federal government who foots the bill when it comes to SNAP, should know where the money's going.
Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison, alongside 21 other states, recently sued the Trump administration over the USDA's requests, saying it's violating the Constitution, and called it a, quote, mass surveillance agenda. Well, President Trump is distancing himself from a second strike on an alleged drug boat that reportedly killed survivors of the initial attack. Now, while Defense Secretary Hegseth doubles down on the attacks as Congress is calling for more investigations into the strike. NBC's Chris Pallone reports.
President Trump backing away from a second September military strike on a boat in the Caribbean suspected of trafficking drugs.
Somebody asked me a question about the second strike. I didn't know about the second strike. I didn't know anything about people. I wasn't involved in it.
It comes as lawmakers from both parties question the legality of that September 2nd incident when the Pentagon launched a second strike on an alleged drug boat near Venezuela, killing 2 survivors of the initial attack, according to one U.S. official and a source familiar with the Pentagon's actions. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says he watched the first strike live, then left the room, claiming Admiral Frank Bradley gave the order.
A couple of hours later, I learned that commander had made which he had the complete authority to do. And by the way, Admiral Bradley made the correct decision to ultimately sink the boat and eliminate the threat.
I think both strikes are actually illegal. I don't think you can just name people and say, well, they've got drugs. Well, where's the proof?
2 congressional committees have launched investigations into the incident. Lawmakers are questioning whether it constitutes a war crime, and if so, who's responsible.
Hegseth initially said all of these stories were false, to then 2 days later saying, well, they're not false, but it wasn't me. I'm not sure that's the kind of leadership we're looking for.
The defense secretary chalks up the confusion to the fog of war. President Trump insists U.S. strikes on suspected drug smugglers will continue.
I want those boats taken out, and if we have to, we'll attack on land also.
Admiral Bradley is expected to speak to lawmakers this week. Chris Pallone, NBC News.
Developing right now, Costco is suing the Trump administration and alleging some tariffs are unlawful. It appears to want a refund if retailers win a separate but related Supreme Court case. Costco says that it's been trying to keep down prices, but says that tariffs make that really difficult. It imports many items it sells and has to pay any applicable duties on those goods. The Trump administration is trying to convince the Supreme Court to let the tariffs stand. Costco has not yet specified how much the tariffs have cost the company. Another threat from the White House to tell you about this morning. The Trump administration says it's going to withhold $30 million in federal transportation funding until Minnesota complies with federal requirements for foreign truck drivers. Residents of other countries who are in the U.S. legally can be issued a commercial driver's license as long as states follow federal rules. But an audit shows that Minnesota broke the rules on 1 out of every 3 of those CDLs. Violations include the state did not verify driver's legal status or issue a license that expires years after the driver's work visa has expired.
We depend on those credentials to be right. We want to make sure people behind the trucks are who they say they are. And so I believe the state's going to correct it.
The Transportation Department is giving Minnesota 30 days to fix the issues. This morning, another twist in the Derek Chauvin case. He's asking for a new state trial. He's claiming that his convictions were tainted due to misconduct by the prosecution and false testimony from expert witnesses. The 71-page filing asks for his 3 convictions to be vacated, saying that his rights were, quote, destroyed. It also says 5 years have passed since George Floyd's death and the riots that followed. So the court can finally look at the evidence, quote, through a cleared lens. New information this morning on the 4 men injured in a St. Paul shooting. We've learned all 4 are now being held by police who say that the men may have been shooting at each other. The shootout happened at around 4:30 Monday afternoon near the intersection of 4th and Earl Streets. St. Paul police say that they're still trying to figure out who fired shots. All 4 men are expected to survive. Well, every night, nearly 200 veterans in Minnesota don't know where they're going to be sleeping. But today, a first-of-its-kind build project is going to officially open their doors to help support those veterans and their families. It's known as Veteran Village, and it looks like a typical home, but the Housing First Minnesota Foundation says it's actually the first townhome-style, semi-permanent housing community in the state, specific to veterans and their family members. Residents include a few who've already moved in before the ribbon-cutting ceremony. Move-ins should be complete in a matter of weeks for up to 36 residents.
There will always be people that are experiencing homelessness. There will definitely be upkeep of all of these properties that have now been built, but there is a lot of excitement about having a home for every veteran that would need one.
The Veteran Village only broke ground back in May. The goal is for residents to live there for 2 years, paying a small rent and receiving support for long-term housing stability. With winter weather really starting to settle in, bed space at shelters across our 2 largest counties is in really high demand. Union Gospel Mission Twin Cities says they're above capacity, even adding space in their lobbies. In a November update, Ramsey County officials say that shelters are all more than 80% full for first-come, first-served beds. Hennepin County officials say more than 100 additional beds have been made available for single adults, bringing the total to more than 1,000 beds in the county. Shelter officials say that bed space is critical as temperatures are expected to plunge.
Yeah, well, all of the shelter providers have been worried, and we work together. But what we're finding is not only are we beyond capacity, but other shelters are full as well.
If you're interested in helping, Union Gospel says that there's always a need for donations, including things like clothes, towels, and money. This morning, the Rosemount Police Department is officially without a police chief after the city council accepted the resignation of Chief Michael Dahlstrom. The city says that he was put on leave back in October after employee feedback from an anonymous survey. They didn't provide any other details on what was said. They'll now begin the process of selecting a new chief. Well, this didn't take long. A day after the Vikings put Adam Thielen on waivers, the Pittsburgh Steelers claimed him. He's now joining former division rival Aaron Rodgers. Thielen asked to be released from the Vikings so he could play a bigger part of a team during what he is saying will be his final season. And we, of course, wish him the best of luck. Hey, stick with us. More news and weather is coming up after the break.